My name is Sloane Berrent. I'm here moderating tonight the 21st Century Classroom, a conversation about education and technology. I welcome tonight panelists Kevin Prentiss, Karen Bantuveris, and Adelma Stanford. I'll do a quick introduction of each of you and we'll dive right in. Just to let everyone know who's in the chat, you can have a very robust conversation. We can see that's going on. I see people from North Carolina, Georgia, Houston, Texas, and more coming in. We're up to 23 that I see have entered, so hello to everyone. Just so you also know, you can enter questions, and some of those questions when we get to that portion will be popping up on the screen, and we'll be recording as much of those questions as possible to be able to reiterate back to you. And then we also have a search on the left side of the screen, and you can see the two main hashtags that we're using tonight are hashtag EdTech and then hashtag 21STCC 21st Century. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We have Kevin Prentiss. He's a renowned lecturer on engagement and social technology, the founder of software aggregator and used by Fortune 100 companies and Big Ten universities with the U.S. Navy. Kevin has been working closely with corporations, higher education, and the military, training on human performance, social capital development, engagement, and technology. He's a 3-time Campus Speaker of the Year and author of Macmillan's upcoming book, Higher Education, Social Networking, New Best Friends, and he can be found on Twitter at KPRENTISS. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Karen. Do a quick introduction for Karen for everyone in the chat right now. Karen is the founder and CEO of Volunteer Spot. It's a free and easy time-saving tool that boosts parent participation at schools. Volunteer Spot's online sign-up calendar makes it easy for teachers and leaders to ask for supplies, schedule volunteer and parent-teacher conferences. Prior to founding Volunteer Spot, Karen was a learning and development consultant with Radiance Learning and was one of the inaugural leaders and designers in Stanford's Learn From Anywhere program. She comes to us from Austin, Texas, and brings the perspective of parent participation to our conversation tonight. Karen also has worked hard in her daughter's teacher funding and approved technology funding for her daughter's elementary school, which is budgeted about $100,000 a year. So thank you, Karen, so much.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we have Adelma. For Promethean, jump and say that Karen can be found at Volunteer Spot. So everyone that's in the chat can find her at Volunteer Spot. Adelma Stanford, welcome. She is at Promethean USA, that's PROMENTHEAN. And Adelma comes to us. She's taught in elementary school for a number of years. She's worked in education technology for a number of years. She's been with Promethean for 5 years, which is the leader in active classrooms. They have a wonderful, in the classroom, they have an online community of their own called Promethean Planet, which unites and combines teachers from around the world to talk about Promethean and their really revolutionary educational technology. And she has a BA in elementary education, a master's in education technology, a specialist in reading. So Adelma, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So to kick things off tonight, I wanted to open the floor to any of you who want to answer the question of where you think education has changed in the past 5 to 10 years. The main places that you could say education is incredibly different than it was only 5 years ago. Kevin, would you like to jump in?
Kevin, we'll let you start with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's more changed in theory than in practice, honestly. I feel like the discussion's quite hot. There are bright spots. Very differently. K-12 education will start from the beginning. So what I was saying was that, my apologies. What I was saying is I think that in general, it's changed in theory more than it's changed in practice. There are bright spots where a few teachers have gotten together and have gone from theory to practice, but on average, I don't think a whole lot has changed in the classrooms. I think that there's still a lot of promise and there's still a lot of hype, and there's still a lot to be done in terms of the typical adoption curve, moving from really innovative educators that are on Twitter, that are using these tools, that are really embedding these things in their practice, being a small percentage of the early adopters, and then moving forward into that middle of the curve. I think the middle of the curve is still really testing. Really, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of turnover, and then in the higher education sphere, which is where I spend most of my time, it's the same thing. The faculty have not changed their practice a lot. It's still a lot of stand and deliver. There's still a lot of PowerPoint. There's still big lectures. On average, I don't think technology has made a huge difference. I think the Blackboard centralized learning management system is still dominant as a paradigm. So the promise of social software and the discussion of social software is still, in general, mostly a theory and a promise rather than a reality.
Kevin, just one further question. What stops it from being a reality? Do you think, what's the biggest driver from stopping it? Is it the adoption? Is it money? Is it access to quality technology at reasonable pricing? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's adoption, and I think that there are systematic points of friction to adoption. So you can get a smartboard in a classroom, and you can use a smartboard just like an old board. And so then there's professional development, and then there is time for professional development and changing a practice and changing the pedagogy around the possibilities of the new tool. Or on the social software side, a tool like Edmodo that would allow more peer-to-peer collaboration between classrooms and things like that. That's actually a free tool, so there's not a financial impediment to using that type of software. There might not be access to computers in the classroom or computers in a computer lab. That's a possibility. That's always a possibility. But many times the impediment is the faculty's time and the faculty's priority and just the systematic impediments to innovation and to experimentation. As teachers are really pressured in their day to handle all these things, they don't have a lot of other time to take on new things.
Karen, did you want to sort of discuss for a moment that corporate to school transition role and how you see that happening?
Yeah, what's really interesting, my classroom experience is through the lens of my daughter, who is now in 4th grade. So I've seen 5 years of technology being integrated in the classroom in a school district that is fairly tech forward. Prior to that, though, I worked with corporate environments helping bring technology into corporate learning. And what's been interesting for me is seeing sort of the mirror of what I saw in the corporate world happening now in the classroom. So from 2nd grade or from 1st grade, my child was making PowerPoints. Now that's a one way. It's not a social media, but it's technology. They are Googling as part of assignments. Their bibliographies must include web integration. So as a parent, I'm seeing technological advancement. What I'm not seeing, though, is social integration in the classroom, in most teachers' classrooms. And I think that has to do with who the teachers are. And you can definitely tell that the younger, newer teachers, who are the digital natives, are much more willing to try new things and experiment with their lesson plans and bring in more creative things in the classroom, versus the teachers who are digital immigrants this is all new to them. They might not even want to be sending an email out to parents to update them about conversations, let alone bring in social media into their classrooms in a lower school setting.